saw that in the miracle with the fish, when Simon Peter's come in and Jesus says, well, go and cast your net out. And he says, well, we've been fishing all night, we've caught nothing. But he listens and he obeys, and you might say that it's his faith in God's goodness that is what allows God to overcome the fallibility of his own efforts.
Yeah.
Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them.
Okay, here.
For I tell you truly, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not a jot, will pass from the law until everything has been accomplished. Therefore, whoever relaxes even the least of these commandments and teaches others to do so shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commandments shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall never enter the kingdom of heaven. And so that's a remarkable one.
But Paul said that they didn't have to keep the laws. That's been a Christian position. I'm not challenging, but I admit this is another puzzle to me.
We will get to those contradictions.
Okay.
As we proceed, when we'll focus on them. So Christ presents something quite remarkable here, in every line of the Sermon on the Mount. But you have these embodied characters in the Old Testament, the prophets, and you have their abstract representation in the law. And his claim is that he has allowed that spirit. It's like the spirit of the multitude of the prophets, or the spirit that unites all the prophets, and that would be the ancestral God of the prophets, and that is the spirit of the law, is the pattern that he embodies and incarnates. And that's the full flowering of something rather than its replacement. So and I think if you hear a great musical piece, you see that the musical piece proceeds until there's a great kind of opening, and the opening is great, but then something that emerges out of it is even greater, and then something that emerges out of that is even greater. That's like the lotus flower that the Buddha manifests himself in. It's the same idea of this opening upward, and the way Christ represents his incarnation in this passage is as the full manifestation of the spirit that's already being represented in a multitude of ways in the entire corpus of the Old Testament text. And it opens this question, which is that if you took those ancient teachings fully to heart and you allowed what they were pointing at to fully enter you, and you subordinated your will completely to that, what sort of being would you be? And that would be associated with the charisma of possession by the Holy Spirit, right? That capacity to utter profound words, the capacity that Moses had to be a leader because he said words that had weight, the capacity to follow the adventure of life that's characterized by Abraham. It would be the wisdom of Noah, who prepares when chaos is coming. It's the conscience, the call to conscience of Elijah. It's all of that integrated into a single pattern. And that's what we're called upon to emulate.
Can I express it maybe in doctrinal terms, which can seem alien to the Bible, but they're really not. So when the Council of Chalcedon says Jesus is the hypostatic unity of two natures, divine and human, in one divine person. So it's using very Greek language, but it seems to me it's very biblical ideas. The whole point of Israel, I think Torah and temple and prophecy and covenant, was meant to bring divinity and humanity together. And so they were doing it to varying degrees, and a process was underway, but there was a sense of it's not fully happened, it's not been fulfilled. Jesus himself, we would claim, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, also human, is the coming together. Therefore, he is the temple, he is the Torah, he is the covenant, he is prophecy fulfilled. And I think that's what he's saying. I am. That's right. I am the fulfillment of the Torah, of the law.
And it's super important because we haven't got to it yet, but he says that, and he says no jot, no nothing from the law will pass. And then he goes on to, at the surface level, look like he actually does exactly what he said is not going to happen. He goes and he says, you have heard that, I tell you this. You have seen this, I tell you this. He looks like he's changing the law, but that's not what he's doing. He's actually showing the inner coherence and the inner light, or the hidden aspect of the law, which is, if you love from your heart, then most of the laws vanish. Like, you don't need them, because you don't need to be told not to steal if you love your neighbor. You don't need to be told not to kill or to take their wife or to take their things, because he's showing you what the core is. And it's like, and then the law comes down from that core.
You see that with the Great Commandment, right? When the lawyer calls upon him to rank order the 10 Commandments, which is the most important commandment. And this is again an Old Testament reference, but he says essentially, as far as I can tell, something like, well, these are 10 manifestations of a single underlying principle. And the single underlying principle is aim up and treat other people as if they're of ultimate value in the same way that you are of ultimate value. And if you have those two, that's what should be held as the highest principle,
That's
right?
all the law.
And that's all the law and the prophets, exactly. And you want to embody that in every word, in every gesture, in every aim, no matter how trivial, to bring it all the way down.
And what I accomplish will help you achieve that through the pouring out of the Spirit. That's the main catalyst for the change of the heart.
It's this willingness, this is the faith. You might say, well, what's the evidence that is made manifest in the person of Jesus? And of course, that was the question that Bishop Barron was addressing earlier. It's like, well, how do you know if someone has made the spirit of the Old Testament properly manifest? You'd say, well, he is capable of offering the sacrifice that's truly pleasing to the Lord. That would make him the reincarnation of Abel, let's say, in the highest possible sense. And how would you know if someone did that? And the answer would be, that person would be capable of voluntarily taking on the full burden of existence, right? Of seeing death to its final degree and encountering malevolence itself in its fullness.
Which is what Augustine means when he says, love and do what you want. I mean, that ama quodvis fac is actually sounds very paradoxical, and it certainly doesn't mean what you might take it to mean today. It's actually the
This is,